de redução das emissões de CO2 até 2025.
Thank you very much. And let us stay a little bit around the topic, because you touched upon green hydrogen and positioning Angola in this new movement around the transition, energy transition. Your Excellency Hichilema, Zambia has cobalt, has copper, there's immense potential of critical materials that we need for global energy transition. So how do you merge these objectives into one place so that we can move at the pace that is necessary?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's a package, really. Earlier I talked about the resource endowment that we in Zambia have, our neighbors, Angola, Congo, DR, everybody has. The issue is basically to bring this into a package in a manner that we can get them to move in tandem. For example, for us to transit to more green energy, let's talk of the vehicular traffic, motor vehicles. We need obviously to move to electric cars, for example, and that's where we need the copper, cobalt, nickel, lithium-based minerals, and to exploit these minerals and then be able to value add it to them to support the if you like, the manufacture of components, accessories, and all of that. That will move our countries, our continent, our world into a more cleaner, vehicular traffic, so to say, energy driven by electricity. So we need to mine. That's one issue. To mine these resources, we need energy, absolutely. And actually, we do need the clean energy in order to mine these resources and then process them. Again, we need energy. I think, again, it comes to the issue of investment and not just the price of investment at which the investment comes, but the quantums of this investment to allow us to accelerate the production at a mine site, so to say, for lack of a better word, but also to process them and then to get them into components that are required. And so it's the investments, the capital on one side, it's a resource endowment on another. I think it's a cooperation at another level to make sure that the global community comes into contact with this package that is required to be able to support the energy requirements of the world, to be able to also ensure that we can reduce the CO2 emissions to the targets that we have set from all the COP meetings that have taken place, Paris, COP 26, 27, now COP 28, which will be coming here. And we congratulate the UAE for that achievement, and they have the support of Zambia, I believe the support of Angola and Africa. And at that point, we want to make sure that we walk through the talk that has been going on around this subject to make sure that the emitting colleagues, developed countries, largely 95% or thereabout comes from the developed countries, they can support Africa's special needs, Africa's special circumstances that are essentially requiring understanding and support in order to get Africa and its population to access clean energy, to be able to also support the revolution that is essential to move the world into a safer space with regarding to reduction of the emissions.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we talked for so long about this. Yeah. We need partnerships. We kind of know what the elements are. Yeah. But so I would like us to dig deeper a little bit into really practicalities. Yeah. What are the 3 next steps that we need to do? But before we do that, Your Excellency, I want to ask you. You mentioned that you're looking at green hydrogen and how to actually become part of this global story of hydrogen. But you're also part of the Southern African regional pool, and there are huge development demands in your own region. So can you tell us a little bit, how can we do both things? Actually, 3 things. 1, do your own national priorities in terms of access, economic development, have a greater regional cooperation for the neighborhood to actually really create some industrial value, local value, and become part of the global energy transition at a global scale.
Bom, os países mais industrializados do mundo são aqueles que, lamentavelmente, mais poluem. E é tendo consciência disso que eles assumiram, sobretudo no COP26, que teve lugar em Glasgow, no Reino Unido, o compromisso de financiarem a transição energética nos países que hoje menos poluem, que é o caso dos países do continente africano, que menos poluem pelo facto de serem países menos industrializados. Mas isso não significa dizer que a África não tenha a ambição de também vir a ser um país industrializado. Esta é uma das metas que nós pretendemos atingir nas próximas décadas. Tudo faremos para que assim seja, tornarmos o nosso continente num continente industrializado. Mas devemos ter o cuidado de não alcançar esse objetivo da industrialização cometendo os mesmos erros que os atuais países industrializados cometeram. Ou seja, queremos industrializar o nosso continente à custa, sobretudo, de energias limpas, de energias renováveis. Mas, para isso acontecer, é preciso que os países ricos cumpram com as suas promessas de colocarem recursos financeiros e tecnologia adequada ao serviço do continente para que o continente possa, então, também se industrializar, mas sem poluir tanto quanto os atuais países ricos o fazem. Portanto, numa palavra, o que eu quero dizer é recordar os países ricos, os países industrializados, que há toda a necessidade de honrarem com o compromisso assumido na COP26, na COP27, para que possamos então ter um continente africano que se desenvolva, mas não à custa da maior poluição do nosso planeta.
Thank you very much for being so clear on how we can align two equally important strategies of sustainable development and climate change. And we have 7 years to 2030. There is a big agenda. We know what needs to be done. You have it very clearly. It's very clearly what you want to do. So what are the 3 things that we need to do in the next 12 months? What would you say your priorities are to really unclog this and start moving at scale that is necessary? Partnerships, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Finance, break it down a little bit further.
Let me put it this way. It is important that because we've been talking about this subject for years, we now need to walk the talk. That's number 1, really. We must walk the talk. The commitments that the President has spoken about, the decisions that were made, must be implemented. It's very important. It's a matter of necessity. It's a matter of credibility as well. I think that's number 1 in terms of next steps to me. I'm sure that applies to others as well. Because then it creates the relevance, it creates the impetus for us to continue meeting as we will meet here in UAE in a couple months from now. The next issue really for me is that we do understand the need to have a global cooperation, global contribution, global technology issues and capital we talked about. But I think the second thing to me is to get we, the African countries, to cooperate with each other, to look at what we can do by ourselves, within our countries, of course, but in our neighborhood, as for us and Angola, to ensure that the opportunities, the resources, the investments that have already occurred in one country, let's assume country A is in surplus and is able to meet its own needs, subject to the challenges it has, such as transmission, moving the energy where it's needed to the population. it is important that we're interconnected. For example, the interconnection between Angola and Zambia, Congo DR, as it were, so that we can move the energy that may be available and is surplus in one location. Yet we know that 600 million people don't have the power, but remember, there is issues of accessibility and affordability. At least we can trade. That's number two. We can trade with each other, and we can be able to move energy from deficit to surplus, from surplus to deficit areas. Thirdly, it's really accelerate what, again, we're able to do, to accelerate additional investments, exchange of knowledge, exchange of experience, shorten processes of what we should be doing. And that, I think, will make it easier also to scale up the projects. Sometimes you have capital providers that require a project of a certain magnitude, a certain size, for their own considerations in terms of minimum level of investment. I think when we pull together as a continent, then we are able to, first starting with neighboring countries, starting with the region, and then the continent, we're able to trade, we're able to engage with others in the global community in a more meaningful and much, if you like, in a way that produces significance. And I think we can move quickly. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Absolutely no need to reinvent the wheel. And no need to spend an extra dollar, extra currency, whatever it is, when we are able to leverage on what we have already. I think this is very important. Sometimes we Africans look to trade with each other through Europe. We look to do business with each other through somewhere else. I think it's time that we do business with each other, people to people, business to business, country to country, region to region. And I think that's important. It's a very important base to do business with other people when we do business with each other. Yeah, because we understand each other's situations many times.
Thank you for bringing the tangle and taking ownership of the agenda and the priorities on the continent. That, as IRENA, International Renewable Energy Agency, we actually work with the African Union on the Continental Master Plan exactly to support the cross-border cooperation and making it having a continental power system that marketed works for everybody. Let me go back to you, Your Excellency. How do you see the short-term priorities from your side?
O nosso continente, para se desenvolver, carece de bastantes infraestruturas. Mas não vamos falar de outro tipo de infraestruturas, vamos falar apenas da necessidade de ter infraestruturas energéticas para eletrificarmos o continente e, consequentemente, industrializarmos o continente. O continente é rico em cursos de água, tem bastantes rios. Portanto, existe ainda a possibilidade de se construírem muito mais barragens hidroelétricas para a produção de energia limpa. O continente tem, felizmente, bastante sol que se desperdiça. E o sol é o único elemento necessário que a natureza nos oferece para podermos transformar esse mesmo sol em energia elétrica, com painéis solares. Portanto, a prioridade neste momento é sensibilizarmos quer os países ricos, quer as instituições internacionais
to provide funding in good terms to our countries so that we can have public investment in this on private term. But has the concurrence on public investment, which is state but also private investment in production of clean energy, which will be included transportation, grids, and traded both directly to the consumer cases and to the state who buys the power to pass it to go to the other. So I think if we have this vision and fast, surely over the coming will be doing a great to the use the emission polluting gas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for highlighting the point of importance to use public finance smartly to leverage private investment, because we need private investment to actually make the change that needs to happen. So we have a few minutes left, and I really want to zoom in on COP28. This morning we counted days. We have about 300 days left until COP28. What are your expectations of Dubai, Your Excellency?
Well, first, as I said, we congratulate the UAE for hosting COP28, but to also encourage ourselves that are part of this COP, meaning Conference of Parties anyway. A Conference of Parties meaning that we, the parties, must ensure that, as I said earlier on, we walk the talk. I think the COP27, the issues around the first world meeting its obligations to the lesser emitting countries, my colleague President has touched on it. I think we expect that COP28 will see specific steps that are taken or agreed to ensure that Africa, for example, and other less polluting countries that are still behind in development but are bearing the most of the brunt, need to be to have a situation where they are ameliorated their situation, they are supported, as it were. And I think this is not something that is being requested for as a new thing. It's a commitment that came through over the years, and I think we're expecting that these commitments will now be realized, specifically to support us as countries, less developed, Africa, others in the transition. Yeah, that includes financing, commitments that were made, Glasgow, all the way through. I think it's important that this is realized as one of the expectations. But I think the other is to really be able to see how we can deepen the cooperation amongst countries, amongst ourselves, because the climate change is one which does not recognize national boundaries. Absolutely not. And look at what COVID-19 did to us. First, drugs were available for the first world, the drugs-producing countries. Did that solve the problem? No. The situation got worse and worse. Climate change is one where we are bound together umbilically, like we're born together. We suffer. Yes, we may not be responsible for the damage to climate, but we suffer the same consequences. But those of us who are challenged, still challenged with development, suffer even more, to be honest, because the pain, the brunt is borne a little bit more by our people. So I think this is a time to rededicate ourselves to working together, to remedying solutions, technology. Solar, for example. Years before, there was no battery storage. Now we can talk about battery storage. Now, who has that technology? It's the first world. So this technology must be rolled out very quickly so that we can be able, all of us, to access battery storage to support solar, the sun, that we've talked about here. These are just some of the examples. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Bom, nós temos muita esperança na COP28, que vai ter lugar aqui. Digo que tenho muita esperança porque
because COP28 will take place in a country that is a big oil producer, that would feel comfortable for the fact of having oil producing oil at very production and consume oil producers. But despite this fact, they are giving a city call by strongly in renewables that the United Arab Emirates, by example, are making huge investments in renewable energy sources. And we will be here some months later to come to and learn a bit of that good example that is being set by the Arab Emirates in fight against the emission of greenhouse gases. And this example be immutable. The demonstration that step by step it's possible to abandon the polluting energy source and have that energy transition to sustainable energy coming from non-polluting sources. So very hopeful of the success of COP28 here in Abu Dhabi.
Thank you very much for laying out so clearly the elements to move. One, the political will, which you displayed in abundance, the clear plans that you have, the commitment, the technical potentials that we have at hand, and the only thing that we need now is the partnerships and momentum to turn this into action. And we believe that this next 300 days will matter, and the COP28 under the leadership of the United Arab Emirates will be a great success for the African continent. Thank you so much. It was an honor to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you so much. And Your Excellencies, thank you so much. And thank you for bringing us up to date with some of the great work that's going on in your country. Moving from potential